Hello, and welcome to the Beauty of Conscious Living, hosted by Be New York. I'm going to be your moderator today. My name is Alexandra Engler, and I am mindbodygreen's beauty and lifestyle editor. So, at mindbodygreen, one of our biggest passions is sustainability. We want to be able to take care of the earth while we take care of ourselves. So, that's why this panel today really just felt like such a natural fit with Be New York. I know that they're a brand that is rooted in sustainable, ethical, and eco-friendly practices. And that ranges from everything that touches their brand, from the fabric choices that they make, the manufacturing partners that they have, to even things like design philosophy. So it really just felt like a really natural fit between the two of us. And today we wanted to get together on Giving Tuesday to talk about conscious living, what it means to us, the importance of mindfulness, and how we can all just try to be a little bit better going forward, especially in 2021. So, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panel today. So, we have Mia Kang. Hi, Mia.
Hi.
All right, we have Veronica Webb.
Hello.
We have Emma Heming Willis.
Hi there.
Hi. And we have Alek Wek.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. All
Thank
right.
you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So before we begin, I do want to make a quick note and say that in honor of Giving Tuesday, on behalf of the panelists, Be New York has been very generous to donate to Project Hope. So this is an organization that is dedicated to empowering healthcare at the local level globally. So we're very thankful that they made that donation today. So thank you. And with that, why don't we just go and dive in, guys?
Okay.
So this is all right. So this is a question that I want to ask everybody. But Mia, I'm going to go ahead and get started with you. So what does conscious living mean to you in 2020 and beyond? And how has this past year, with all of that's going on, how has that changed your definition of conscious living? And how have you adapted to conscious living in this new environment?
I think that COVID-19 has been I'm going to say that one more time because my voice cracked for some reason. I think that COVID-19 has been kind of a blessing in disguise for all of us and for humanity. I think that those of us who thought that we were, conscious and mindful individuals before, that just has expanded completely. I think that this year has made us all reflect on our individual choices as a shared society. I think we really realized with this pandemic that our decisions affect one another, affect the planet, affect our general well-being. And I think that, or I hope anyway, that most of us out here have taken this year to make some decisions to make sure that we are better individuals of a shared society.
I love that. We're a community. So Veronica, I'd love to hear from you.
Wow. So conscious living, for me, it's evolved a lot this year. And a big thing is listening to people with patience and love and kindness, because there's nothing more sustainable than kindness. And I think it's such a difficult time and we're all going through so much. So that's been a big sustainable thing for me. And also, not buying anything, using anything, consuming anything that I don't really need and love.
I love that. I think we've all really gotten, back to the basics and really pared down and find is what's meaningful for us. Emma, do you have any thoughts to share on this? How has this year been for you?
Yeah, I mean, what a year. As
I mean, right? A better word.
That summed it up.
Very nicely.
I think with how hard it's been, I think there's been so many different silver linings that have come from it. So many different movements and just I think how we've all pivoted as a society has been really remarkable to watch. I think for me, it's just about realizing how simple my life can be. I think I've made it so complicated and busy in the past. And I've really just sort of been really grounded to the sense of like, simplify, just simplify.
Again, it's just, really getting back to basics. I think it's really important to live simply and something we're all learning if we didn't before. So, Alek, I'd love to hear from you.
Wow, like Emma said, what a year. I mean, where do we begin? But 2020 is definitely humbled, I feel, everyone. If this doesn't humble you, what will? You know? I mean, the quarantine, I mean,
Absolutely.
I cried. My neighbors cried. We became a community. I mean, we were hitting those pots and pans at 7 o'clock, when that church bell rings, so it definitely humbled me very much. And the fact that we couldn't be with our loved ones, also on top of everything, just makes you realize how fragile life is. And just the little things that we not took for granted, but never appreciated. But I think that in terms of sustainability, I learned to also support the locals. I learned to really realize that there is a community that we can come together. And I think 2020 and during this COVID-19 has forced us to recognize that, and that's something that before we just, we were in a pace where we're just going, and we don't stop for a moment and appreciate that. And I think that having a company like, Be New York is brilliant because the clothes for me is wearable. I mean, throughout the quarantine, I mean, it's not like you have to put on a pair of heels and, and a frog and you have to go somewhere. No. So you need something that's comfortable, and also the fabric feels good. And the initiative that they're doing, also giving back, I think that those are the things that are very important in 2020, and life doesn't have to be difficult, I say, if it works, great. If it doesn't, we don't need to dwell over it. So I think that that's what sums up really 2020 is, and also appreciation for the technology. This is where it is at its best. Because imagine if we didn't have this, it would have
No,
been
we
very,
couldn't be having this panel talk without it, could we?
yeah, and with our loved ones, we all live all
Yeah.
over the world. No, we don't live in the same city. So, and having these discussions, I think is very important, and seeing women come together and truly exchange conversations. I think that's something that we need to put forth, it's a very positive, and we can share so much. Like I always say, we're so much alike than our differences. So I think this is how we can be able to relay that.
I love that. And you spoke about community and really giving back into your community. And I just wanted to follow up with you and ask, how are you pushing your view of conscious living out into the broader world? What sort of initiatives and causes, bring you inspiration? What are you involved in? What are some of your passion projects?
Oh God. I mean, during the quarantine, of course, it's like if you're not creative, you better get creative. I mean, because you have so many hours. So I got back into my painting, I got back into writing, which was really nice. It's something that I've always done. I started to dig into my old Polaroids, before there was phones. It was really it was quite humbling to take a look at all of that. So to answer your question, personally, I work with Doctors Without Borders, and they were in the field, going back when I was going through the Civil War as a young person, 7, 8, 9. And that's how I came across UNHCR, United Nations High Commission for Refugees. And they're the ones that are there for basic necessity, which any of our fellow human beings need, food, shelter, water, and safety. So for me, that's long term because I've been blessed to get a chance. But I think that it's not just being able to be comfortable with the life we have, but using that platform. And I think together it can be very strong to help another fellow human being out. So that's my initiative, and that is long term. In terms of the community, I feel that's where sustainability is at its best. I mean, the mom and pop shops, there are little little boutiques that I love, like 21 Tara, and they make all these lovely pom-pom skirts, and it's all
Ooh.
like it's all like bits and pieces that's put together, but I put it together with this, and it's like I wear it in the winter with tights, but the reason why I bring that up, it's like these women from Nepal make it and the proceeds go to them. So I don't just wear something that I think is just beautiful, but it's a journey. It tells a story, but it also gives back. So I really feel, even though they're so far away, I feel proud to wear it, if that makes sense, But
Yeah.
also I get compliments, but it does its job. It's comfortable. I can wear it everywhere. And also there are other stores like Authentic African Goods. They make these beautiful baskets. Whenever I see somebody down the road, I'm like, you're my kind of people. They make baskets for the linens. They make baskets, you can share, break, bread with, and so many other things. I mean, fabrics from and from all over Africa. And drums, that's something that I love during the quarantine, which was really nice.
That all sounds so fun. And so it's such a beautiful way to invest in your community.
And all these goods come directly from these villages, and this young person goes and brings them to these communities in Brooklyn that would never be able to be there. So anything is possible, and I think that if we can put in our community, the community can give back. So that's why I love being able to have come across Be New York and work with them, because they can appreciate that aspect.
And it sounds like you have such a you have this particular passion about sustainability and conscious living, and I think that's so interesting, because so often sustainable living or conscious living seems so broad, but if you find specific parts that really resonate with you in this broader theme of living, it can really help you connect with this philosophy. So Emma, I want to ask you, what areas of sustainability or conscious living do you really connect with, and how do you address those in your day-to-day life?
I mean, I think for me, it's really like you just said, like what you connect to. And for me, it's like the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle. Like,
Sure.
It's as simple as that. If I keep it in that realm, things have shifted so much in my household. I really am, Veronica had said this earlier, like, about what you're bringing into your home. A friend of mine asked me, like, the holidays are coming, what do you want for Christmas? I'm like, I want you to come in and take 5 things out of my house. Like, I don't want
Amen.
Every recycle day, there is something, like another man's trash. What does that say? Another man's trash is another person's like
treasure,
whatever. Yes, honey, that's going on.
I think quarantine is really like being at sea, and my apartment is like running a ship now. I mean, Emma, you said it so well, like you want someone to take 5 things out of your house. And for me, it's like I've took about 500 things out of my closet, because I needed a really practical uniform every day to wear on my tight little ship that I'm running here. Because, it's not normal to do everything you need to do with everyone who you live with 24 hours a day in one single place. So I kind of really had to, like, Emma said, reduce, reuse, recycle. And like these little Be New York separates, they're so light and perfectly well made, and they just, they're the perfect uniform. Like, you want to be on a Zoom call, or you want to run to the store or whatever, you can feel comfortable, you can feel cute, and it's easy.
Veronica,
I agree.
I agree. And you answered the question that I wanted to ask you. And I was going to ask you, what sort of conscious tips have you learned that you wanted to share with other people? And I think that, what you have shared is it's so helpful to people. Find basics and, use what you have. Do you have anything else that you want to add to that you have? Tips that you live by that you like to share?
I'm a mom, so I feel like I spend most of my time, cooking and cleaning. And I feel like the biggest impact that I can make, and I'm sure Emma can speak to this really, really well also, is, just when I go to the store, like I've started to buy brown paper bags to put my fruit and vegetables in instead of using the little plastic bags. Because, at the end of the week, if you're cooking for 6 people, you probably used 50 to 100 of those bags easily. And then the other thing I do is I wash my clothes in cold, because we all like stretchy, comfy clothes, right? But those little microfibers, they break down. And when you wash, your workout clothes or anything with stretch in it in the washing machine, and then those fibers end up in the ocean, which then animals swallow, and then we end up eating it.
It's just also connected. We forget that the little things that we do every day really have this huge impact. And Mia, I wanted to come to you next and ask, how do you live this truth in your day to day? How do you fulfill, this conscious living? It's a broad question, but how do you tackle this day to day?
I'm going to try and answer and not spiral off, but this year, I don't know if anyone else can relate, but this year, and especially through quarantine, I've had all the time to watch all the documentaries, to do all the Googling, to do all the research, and, so many things. I went vegan, which really, after learning about the impact on the environment, I really felt like, to be a mindful and conscious and responsible human being, I couldn't quite do that, knowing what I know, without, making these adjustments to my lifestyle and my consumption choices. And I think this year has been really, as well, kind of what Alek was saying. I really learned the value of the dollar and the value of my dollar and the importance of where I put that. And, so many of us have had our incomes reduced, our businesses are struggling, small businesses are struggling, and realizing that you can help and you can support, and where you put your money matters. And so this year, I have really tried to, consume less. I've tried to, even down to my favorite new thing, which arrived yesterday, is the reusable makeup cotton pads, things like that. I love this, my whole new thing. And I'm just trying to make better choices every day, and support smaller businesses, local businesses. I actually took a trip around Thailand, and I visited local communities that produce goods. So the communities that make rice, the communities of women that make cotton and all the fabrics, and weaving communities. And I actually saw firsthand how, in rural Thailand, how they're producing the food that ends up on our plates or in the supermarkets, and the clothes that we end up buying. And that was really humbling. That was really, it was mentioned earlier, we really take things for granted. And I think when you realize, especially through a pandemic, certain things have to keep running. Our food is still being made, things are still being sold. And I think, again, see, I feel like I've spiraled now. I feel like I've completely gone up.
No spiraling. You did great.
No, I completely agree with you, Mia. I think that if we understand, if people know what happens to the fabric, again, also, Veronica, you were saying earlier, we can do something. It takes one person, to just, and then together we can really make a change. And that's just by the choices we make,
Yep.
Including what we wear. And it's amazing when people think, this may be like a very expensive, they can't afford it. And I'm like, no, you can actually afford it. And they're like, really? this is amazing. And I'm like, yeah, if you can feel it too, it feels amazing. It's sustainable. So the fact that anyone can be able to get their hands on it, and it's helping the environment. If you do research and you really see and you know the facts, once you know the facts, it's really scary. And we can actually make a difference by making choices, what we wear, where
Absolutely.
we shop, how much access, we take.
And I think for sure in this day and age where we have all the technology and the access to so much information, I really feel like the information is there. It's really kind of like the ignorance to the subject is a choice, because, and especially this year, I feel like we've had the time and things that we're in a space where this is what we should be thinking about. And the impact on the planet is of the utmost importance.
It's real.
And
it's real.
Yeah.
But I also think that sustainability and going green can also be so overwhelming because there is so much information. And I think it's about dwindling it down to what works for you and your family. I'm kind of like all or nothing, which is, I realize, so terrible, because it's like, then I want to be green and I want to be sustainable, so I have to do this, and I'm not doing this right. And then it just becomes so overwhelming. So like I said, I've just simplified this idea of reduce, reuse, recycle. And that just works for me.
Yeah.
I just feel like when people feel like they have to do it all, that then they have this sense that they're not doing it right, which then means they won't do it. So I think you just start small and simple.
Yeah.
And
every day adds up,
and any little bit helps, right? So
I so agree with Emma. I mean, and Mia, you said that you had gone vegan. So my kid started going vegan. She knew it was going to take her a long time because she was the first person in our house to go vegan. So it was a process that really took her like 4 years to do it. And
that's amazing, though. And she made that decision by herself.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool.
Kind of that kid. So, from the time that she was 14 till the time that she just turned 18 a couple weeks ago and went to vote with me for the first time.
Yay! It was my first time. So we just talked about that.
That decision for herself. She did it slowly. She impacted the rest of our lives. And, like Emma, you were saying, you have to do what works. And my philosophy really this year has changed to do less, do it better, and enjoy it more. So, we're, in a way, I get to do less in the kitchen because I'm just cooking vegetables a lot, which is far less complicated, but I can do more with it, like more sauces, more sides, more variety. And we're all enjoying it more. And I think that that's a really way that, like what everyone's saying, do it little by little. That's a great way to live a sustainable life and really make a change. And you don't have to be perfect.
No, nobody is perfect.
I give up on that.
Excuse me, not to go off the subject, but I didn't like that whole idea of make America great again. That's insulting. We're all great, but we can do better.
I think that's it for sure.
Always room for improvement. And I think when we can be able to willing to learn, that's when change comes about, And I think that with this election, it was the first time I was so humbled, to be able to vote. And I was running literally.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. And it was incredible. And I worked all day until late Friday, and I went to sleep completely cold. And because I did 15 pages, a bunch of yoga poses and moves and dip it and this, and I'm like, okay, I am not 18 years old, but it was brilliant. So I fell asleep, and all I woke up to was we won, and I'm like, my neighbors never scream, what's happening? And it took me a second to realize the election have come to an end. But like you were saying earlier, Veronica, it's definitely important, what you put in your mouth, and especially your daughter learning that at such an early age. I went vegetarian 2.5 years, and it was one of the best things, really, because I learned that it's not just the colorful of the food, but it's how you feel. It
Mhm.
truly makes a
Mhm.
difference. You are mindful, you're going to be around other people. Um, you're much more aware, you're stronger. um you're just It's just better overall for everybody in terms of just being healthy, you know.
Mhm.
So the farmers market was really amazing straight away after the quarantine. I mean, because everything is in the season, so you really get to learn. It's not just eating food because you're hungry, but it's eating what kind of food is good for you so that you
It's
can.
about sustaining yourself and
Yeah,
sustaining your body. Yeah.
yeah,
You know, and I think this is actually a really like this idea of small things that you can do and introduce into your life to make a bigger impact. I actually think this is a nice segue into the next thing I want to talk about, and it's because it's about the holiday season. So we have the holiday season
Oh
coming
yeah.
up, and we do, and it tends to be a time of excess, and that's what it's kind of like. That's what we think about it as. But I think it's also an opportunity to teach people how to be more conscious and mindful and sustainable in their daily lives, and how to introduce your values of sustainability into the gifts that you give other people or the lessons that you share with other people. And I think that's a really beautiful way to share holiday values with one another. So I wanted to ask you guys, how are ways that you are making this holiday season more sustainable? How are you giving back to the earth? How are you teaching other people to share in this community that we have? Veronica, why don't I go on and start with you? Do you have any holiday tips in this vein?
Well, I think, it's funny, Alexandra, because the biggest thing that for me always is education and mentoring. And that's something that's within all of us. I've been helping kids write their college essays whose parents don't have time to do it, or they wouldn't have access to someone who could give them help with writing an essay. And I've been donating to college funds, community gardens, but I really think that mentoring is something that's within all of us. So, if there's anything that any skill that you have that you can teach and pass along, because now it's easier than ever. I mean, I'm working with these kids over Zoom. Um, and I really want to see people move from like point A to point B, because education also is the most sustainable gift that you can give, because it grows and it passes along and it doesn't rot.
yeah. Like Mia said earlier, once you know, you know. And if you don't do
Mhm.
any better, then you're ignorant, you know?
Mhm.
Because then it's
Mhm.
like, come on now, you know?
Yeah, well,
So,
there's no waste with education. It's definitely a green, clean gift.
Yes. I love that. There's no waste with education. That's very smart. Emma, how about you?
This isn't new by any stretch of the mean, but what we're doing this year, which we do most years, instead of buying so many gifts, we've got business people to buy for, friends, family. Instead of gifts, what we do is we will make a donation to a couple of charities of choice, and then you know send out a card and say, sort of in lieu of a gift this year, we've donated to so and so and this, that, and the other. And I remember receiving something like this many years ago, and it just made me feel so good knowing that, like, I don't need to receive a gift. I'm so happy that, you know, whatever you were going to spend on me is going to someone, something else. So that is something that I really like doing over the holiday seasons, as opposed to just buying, sending it out, that sort of feels
I was
better.
going to say that as well. I think, and I've seen this happen with a couple birthdays recently, as well as saying, if you're thinking of getting me a gift, I support these causes. I would really appreciate a donation. Way better than, buying something and hoping that they'll like it. No.
Sure. Yeah. Alek, how about you?
I think this 2020 is going to be one of those Christmas where it's like, if you expect some big lavish thing, I mean, you're going to have to really check yourself. I think it's going to be a very humbling Christmas, and it's a
Yeah.
time where you could like I said earlier, a sense of community. It's a time to donate. It makes you feel good. And if you can do something better, like, maybe there's a family that I know had a store, and then this vendor, doesn't have a place to sell these things. Okay, why don't I put those two people together? And then they're like, well, you're the middle person, and how much cut are you getting? And I'm like, are you kidding me? No, my cut is like watching this thing flourish, dude, and seeing people enjoy it. So I think that it's going to be a very humbling Christmas, but definitely I think the most important are words. Like when you receive a card that's thoughtful from like a family, a friend, and if they want to give you something and they give it to somebody else that doesn't have any, because it didn't just go to 1 month, 2 months, 3 months this quarantine. People have lost their jobs. And I'm talking about people that like in the beginning didn't really have much. So things in that nature, Emma, that you were saying of donating, it really means a lot for families. And that's one of the things that really humbled me throughout this quarantine, is thinking about the majority of the families, how they dealt with, there was no really a plan. Everybody was just quarantined together. I mean, you can't imagine all the challenges that took place. So any help for families that are less, fortunate, I think this is like the best gift that we could give. Yeah.
I agree.
No,
I think that,
yeah.
oh, sorry.
No, please continue.
No, I was just going to say that I think that another aspect to consciousness is also, and mindfulness is with each other. And I think that instead of thinking, perhaps what can I get for someone, it's what can I do for someone, or what do they need as a person? Because this year has been so tough on people, mental and emotional health as well. There's been just so much anxiety and depression and loneliness and separation and loss. And I think that, like Alex said, like words and support can be one of the most meaningful things. Yeah, it goes a very long way. So I think that's a really good angle of looking at being a conscious individual is empathy. I think that we really do have a heightened sense of empathy right now, and I think that is a really great gift in itself.
Yeah.
Old saying, Mia, that charity begins at home. And what you said.
No, actually, I didn't know that, but that's really cool.
You've never heard? Yeah, it's an old thing. Charity begins at home. And what you just said made me think about years ago, I met this couple on a train, and they were probably in their late 80s. And I started talking to them, and they had been married for almost, they had been married 62 years. They had gotten married when they were in their teens. And I asked the guy, what's the secret? And he says, every day I get up, and no matter how I feel, I ask my wife, what can I do to make your day easier? And whatever it is, she says, like, take out the trash, do the dishes, don't wear those dirty shoes in here. He's like, I just do it right away. No, no fuss, no nothing. And I think for all of us, that's such great advice. And if we can do that for the people who we live with, and that's how we start our day off, it becomes a concentric circle of kindness that continues to like upcycle and be passed along all day long.
Yeah. I'm going to switch gears here just a little bit.
Okay.
We have some very stylish women here. I feel very lucky to be on a call with you guys. And, we are in partnership with Be New York, who's our host today. So I think we have to talk about clothing a little bit, which, I'm excited to hear your thoughts and your personal philosophies. The thing about Be New York is their philosophy is less is more. It's quality over quantity. It's slow versus fast. These are things that they really like pride their ethos on. They have this new elevated basics collection called the Conscious Capsule. And, it's these beautifully designed separate so you can piece together and kind of build up your wardrobe. It's kind of this like effortless way to build up your wardrobe and this effortless way to dress. And I want to hear about your guys's philosophies when it comes to style and how you build up your wardrobe in a way that feels true to you, but is also feels like you're doing something right in sustainability and conscious living. Let's see. Why don't we start with Alek?
Okay. You just put me on the spot. For me, it's very easy. If I feel comfortable, I can get on with my day. And the pieces that I wear, this is one of like this. Obviously, they is it sweatpants? They have pockets, string. So, as the day go by, maybe sometimes I want to let it out. Maybe sometimes I want to tie it real tight. I have another pullover that when it gets really cold, because I love being cozy, or I just tie it around my waist. And I can wear it with like my sneakers. I can just boot it up. And it feels comfortable, and you don't even understand like how much compliments I get, like who makes that. And I'm like, Be New York, and they're like, which company? And I'm like, Be New York, and they're like, wow, that's a cool name. And I'm like, and check this, it's actually really cool, it's sustainable too. And they're like, get out of here. So it becomes a piece of a conversation. But for me, it has to be functional. I mean, I'm sorry, it's not just going to look good. So it really works with my daily routine, even just going to the farmer's market. It comes in handy. It keeps me warm. I know that I'm not going to get sick because it's going to get cold soon. So it helped me to gear up towards the winter as well.
Veronica, I'd love to hear from you.
I think that you have to think about your wardrobe as a family, because you got to live with all this stuff, right? So it needs to go together. It needs to be easy. It needs to be practical. And I think effortless dressing, well, is not really a real thing, because it takes so much thought beforehand, right? So with the Conscious Capsule collection, I have it on right now. This cozy little comfy soft sweater that looks really chic and beautiful. Like I could walk into a Michelin star restaurant right now with this on. Be New York did a lot of the heavy lifting because they created like these chic, perfect silhouettes, that you can just throw on and go anywhere. And when I think about chic, right, chic is not really, a young girl's game. It's a woman's game, because it takes a long time, to realize like what's the best of the best for you and how to choose it and how to build a wardrobe over time. So I love anything that is made with that in mind. And I think that this Conscious Capsule, that's what it's all about.
Emma, how about you?
What was the question again?
So we're talking.
I lost the question. What is it?
Like, isn't that bad? Now that you were like, what is she talking about?
So, I mean, there's a lot of questions flying around. So,
I love how you brought that
understand.
together, by the way, Emma. I love you have a little,
That was the best.
Isn't that cute? Yeah. So this is
so cute.
And
card
your
in, I just put this little-
hairstyle, you're giving me some bohemian,
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
laid
No, I was-
back, and with the fireplace. It's really nice.
Oh, thank you. I was so excited to put makeup on and like kind of put myself together. This was a really big night for me. So what was the question again?
So back to the question. So the question is, it has to do with, personal style philosophies, and, Be New York, their personal or their fashion philosophy is, less is more, quality over quantity, slow versus fast. And so really building this wardrobe, their Conscious Capsule wardrobe, or their collection helps you build your larger wardrobe with, really well-made basics. And so I wanted to ask you guys, how do you um, involve, like, use your personal style and still feel true to yourself while also realizing, that dressing sustainably is also important? How do you marry those together, and how do you view fashion in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, I think what Be New York does is just so my aesthetic. I am very simple, right? Like, I need a good shirt, I need a good pair of pants, needs to be comfortable. I actually prefer to spend money on really great basics, like a great blazer, or that I know that I'll have for 5 years. I mean, I have, like, a jacket that I bought from, I don't know, like Armani. I've literally had it for 15 years. It still looks great. I just, that's why fast fashion, I don't think really works, right? So I think it's important to invest in your staple pieces because you will hold on to them for a really long time. I think Be New York is just right on track. I mean, the pieces are very elegant, but very chic and comfortable and easy to wear. And it's so comfortable. So I just keep it simple. I do spend money on my basics, but like I said, or my staples, I have them for so long. So
I
Yeah.
like
I
it.
mean, yeah.
I like what Emma just said, because it's emotional. It's an investment. It's nice.
I always say,
Yeah,
what
how
you
do you
put on reflects it should reflect how you really feel. So, like you said earlier, Veronica, chic, you can't make up chic. That's something
No,
that
you can't.
trans-
a lot of people try.
So,
Mia, how about you?
I have a fun story for you guys. So I came to Thailand earlier this year, in the beginning of COVID, and I actually got stuck here. The country shut its
wow.
borders. Yeah, the country shut its borders and didn't allow anybody. It's part of the reason why, they've done exceptionally well at handling the situation. But anywho, I came here thinking that I was going to be on a 2-week vacation. So I packed, 2 bikinis and a pair of denim shorts and a pair of flip-flops, and and then I've been stuck here for, we're coming up to a year. So I've had to mentally let go of everything I have and kind of build up, what do I need to wear? What do I need in order to get by, to feel good, to look good? And everything that you described about Be New York's philosophies, I totally agree. I'm all about staples. I'm all about comfort. I'm all about investing in your basics. I'm all about being chic. I like being able to, just throw things together and know that they'll be good together. I don't know. I'm not about waking up in the morning and then spending 45 minutes trying to put together an outfit. Like, that's just not me. But yeah, I've had to build kind of like the staples and the basics again. And I think that I like to put emphasis on that. I think that, you're investing in good basics goes a long way. I also really love this sizing, and I love that the pieces, like Alex said, like some days you want to let it out. Some days you want to, tie it up real tight. I think that my body changes all the time. My size changes, so much. We have the pleasure of having fluctuating bodies. My size changes even throughout the day.
That's the beauty of a woman, yeah.
Exactly. I love it. And I love clothes that cater to that and that allow me to feel comfortable, to breathe, and to, at the same time, feel cute. So, yeah, I love that. I love the simplicity. For me, sizing is super, super important.
I mean, just look at how beautiful we're all wearing our own style and Be New York right now. This is something that I always wanted to see, So it clearly shows that we can.
Well said.
Yeah. So
yeah. Everyone's personality is, still able to come out. Okay, so I know we have some moms on the panel. So I wanted to ask, how do you spread your sustainable values, talk about conscious lifestyle to your kids. Emma, why don't we go ahead and start with you? How do you try to teach these lessons to your children?
I think the beauty of being a kid in this day and age is that at school, these kids are taught all about this, right? Like, I feel like they come home to me and sort of school me on like what I'm not doing. So they're all these kids, and they're not in school; they're at home school. But it is just something that they learn from such a young age. And I think they also like see what I do in the house when it comes to recycling and waste. And when my daughter Mabel grows out of her clothes, they get passed down to Evelyn, who probably has never worn a single new thing ever. Just gets all of her big sister's, clothes. But that's it, like reuse, and they understand that concept. And recycling, they totally get the concept. And I'm just teaching them and not even having to teach, like they see and they pick it up, and they're also learning these values and bringing them home from school. So
same here. I mean, I think that my kids teach me more about being sustainable and what's green than I teach them. But when your mom's a supermodel, you still got, you still have your fashion bag of tricks. So clean beauty is really important because, I don't want my girls to not be conscious of the chemical burden that you bear when you're not using clean beauty. So we try to do, clean cosmetics, clean soaps as much as possible. And then there's fashion, and style tells a story. So what story do you want to tell with your choice of clothing?
Sure. I think that's such a great point to, really just guide your values onto your kids. And to Emma's point, kids are smart. They pick up on stuff too. They watch you. They see your values and they live them as well.
What they
speaking
say,
of
the
looking
sponges, right?
Yeah.
Sponges.
Grab it all in.
Little sponges.
So the more,
Either they're sponges or cactuses.
yeah.
My friend has to literally like spell things out, and I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, she knows when I say this, so I have to speak in codes because they pick it up so quick. But I think that engaging is very important. And when you make it so that it's not so foreign and it becomes, a discussion, everybody has, can have this, say, what do you feel about this? What do you think about this? And I think it's very empowering, and we can all teach each other. I mean, young people now, they can teach us so much. It's unbelievable, between just the computer and school. It's the information is there, but I think if we are engaging and we leave it open where people, they can express themselves, I think we can get so much resolution.
Yeah. Last question, and I want to ask all of you. What keeps you hopeful for the future? What inspires you? What brings you passion as we go into 2021? Veronica, let's go back to you.
I think people are so much more engaged now with the big issues, right? Like, love it, hate it. No one is indifferent to our democracy anymore. I think that's a really big deal. And I love it that we're all educating ourselves and engaged. And then our health. No one's taking their health for granted anymore. So even very young people, who get up every day and they feel good because they're young, they're now conscious of health, not only on a personal level, but on a community level. And I think that we're going to see so much innovation and ingenuity that's coming out of this time. Even like, look how fast they're working on the vaccine. So I think that, all this sequestering and this paring back of everything has created such an appreciation and such a hunger for us to be able to come together and to learn and to be able to define life on our own terms, because it's been denied for the last, if you think about what happened also in Asia, it's been denied for almost the last 2 years. I think we're going to have an incredible renaissance. And when this is over, you're going to see more dancing, more feathers, more sequins, more, more shiny lipstick, more music, and more smiles, and more science than we've seen in a long time.
Oh, we need science, yes. But it's funny. I love how you've just worded everything. The other night, I finally did the plane thing, and I have to quarantine myself. That's why you could see where I am, But I remember this designer just seeing him, and of course with the mask, it's so bizarre. It takes a minute for you to recognize somebody, and he said, I can't wait until glamour. We could get back to glamour, and I didn't even think about that. But I think that 2020 has definitely reminded us that we must celebrate humanity. We must. And I saw unity that I haven't, and I felt it. And I think that we are yearning for that. And I think that with this COVID-19, it's been very, 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 very detrimental in so many ways and divided so many families, But I feel there's hope for the new year to come. Just because everybody's heart, I feel, is in the same place. I feel everyone wants to do their best. And before I used to be very overwhelmed. And for the first time, I'm okay with whatever that I can do for that day, because tomorrow is a new day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the direction that we're going to go towards. And we're going to appreciate even the little things that we didn't. I mean, I've gotten calls from people that I haven't spoken to in a long time. And I'm like, this clearly can't just be because you've been quarantined for 2-3 months. But it was such joy to be able to reconnect and to be able to want to rebuild,
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. It's something that we can't explain, but I think that it's human, and it's where we have to celebrate humanity, because I feel that's what was taken away during the quarantine, and I think human beings were more resilient than we think, and I think that's where the direction we're gonna go. And I think that we have to celebrate that much more, because we're much more alike than we're different. So on that note, somebody else.
Love that.
Yeah.
Mia, why don't you, or Emma?
I'm kind of piggybacking off of what Alex said, but for me, what gives me hope for the future is empathy, and this driving force of empathy that we have built up. I think that we are really now starting to think about minorities and marginalized people, and we're starting to think about how each other feels, and about wanting to do what we can to make people feel better and more comfortable. And I think that goes across so many different subjects, but I really think that if we keep up this attention to empathy and this, and expanding our capacity for empathy, then for me, our future is hopeful. Because so long as we're thinking about one another and thinking about, doing better as individuals, I think we'll be okay. I hope. but yeah, that's.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I'm very hopeful for the future. I feel like I think we were talking about this earlier, we all thought we were awake before, but actually we weren't, and I think that we're just so conscious and so in the moment, and we have, I think, now such a sense of community, and really what that means, that'll be such a driving force for the future, like that shared experience. We finally have like a world shared experience that I think has really lifted us up and has been quite positive, believe it or not.
Well, I'm inspired by all of you. So that's how I feel about after this discussion, and that's how I feel about going into 2021. I think there's a lot of really, really wonderful people out there and a lot of really inspiring women who are just like you, who are trying to do their best every day, and also, promoting the good word out there, and like really trying to educate others and put our values out there. And that's what I find inspiring. So thank you for joining us today.
And we
I had such a wonderful time.
together.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you guys.
I
I
love
know.
conversations like this. They're so inspiring. Like when
Yeah.
it's just so inspiring.
And thank you, Be New York, for putting us all together.
Yeah, thank you, Be New York.
Thank
Yeah.
you,
Be New York.
So thanks again. Thank you to Be New York for hosting us today at this panel. And you know what? I think this is a great note to wrap up 2020 with. And we'll see you 2021 soon. And we'll keep on doing our best.
Yes.